Hey everybody, today we're going to read Frog and Toad Together by Arnold Lobel. The contents are a list, the garden, cookies, nom, 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 dragons and giants, and the dream. A list. One morning, Toad sat in bed. I have many things to do, he said. I will write them all down on a list so that I can remember them. Do you all do this? I know I do, and I know that your teachers have asked you all to do these before as well. Toad wrote down on a piece of paper a list of things to do today. Then he wrote, "Wake up." "I've done that," said Toad, and he crossed out "wake up." Then Toad wrote down other things on the paper. Can you all read those? A list of things to do today. Wake up, to cross out. Eat breakfast, get dressed, go to Frog's house, take a walk with Frog, eat lunch, take a nap, play games with Frog, eat supper, go to sleep. Those all sound like fantastic things. There, said Toad. Now my day is all written down. He got out of bed. He had something to eat. Then Toad crossed out, eat breakfast. I challenge you all to do that. Making lists is such a great way to stay organized for your day. Toad took his clothes out of the closet and put them on. Then he crossed out, get dressed. Toad put the list in his pocket. He opened the door. He walked out into the morning. Soon Toad was at Frog's front door. He took the list from his pocket and he crossed out, go to Frog's house. Toad knocked at the door. "Hello," said Frog. "Look at my list of things to do," said Toad. "Oh," said Frog, "that is very nice." Toad said, "My list tells me that we will go for a walk." "All right," said Frog, "I am ready." Frog and Toad went on a long walk. Then Toad took the list from his pocket again. He crossed out, take a walk with Frog. Just then there was a strong wind. Oh no! It blew the list out of Toad's hand. The list blew high up into the air. "Help!" cried Toad. "My list is blowing away. What will I do without my list?" "Hurry!" said Frog. "We will run and catch it." "No!" shouted Toad. "I cannot do that." "Why?" asked Frog. "Because," wailed Toad. There's that word again, wailed Toad. "Running after my list is not one of the things that I wrote on my list of things to do." Frog ran after the list. He ran over hills and swamps, but the list blew on and on. At last Frog came back to Toad. "I am sorry," gasped Frog, "but I could not catch your list." "Blah!" said Toad. "I cannot remember any of the things that were on my list of things to do. Do you guys remember any of them?" "I will just have to sit here and do nothing," said Toad. Toad sat and did nothing. Frog sat with him. After a long time, Frog said, "Toad, it is getting dark. We should be going to sleep now." "Go to sleep!" shouted Toad. "That was the last thing on my list." Toad wrote on the ground with a stick, "Go to sleep." Then he crossed out, "Go to sleep." "There," said Toad. "Now my day is all crossed out." "I'm glad," said Frog. Then Frog and Toad went to sleep. Garden. Frog was in his garden. Toad came walking by. "What a fine garden you have, Frog," he said. "Yes," said Frog, "it is very nice, but it was hard work." Do any of you all have gardens? What are some things that you all grow? I would love to start growing like tomatoes, cucumbers, pineapples be grown in a garden? Oh, they're on trees. I wish I had a garden, said Toad. Here are some flower seeds. Plant them in the ground, said Frog, and soon you will have a garden. How soon? Asked Frog. Quite soon, said Frog. Toad ran home. He planted the flower seeds. Now seeds, said Toad, start growing. Toad walked up and down a few times. The seeds did not start to grow. Is that how it goes? Does it happen immediately? Or does it usually take some time? Toad put his head close to the ground and said loudly, Now seeds, start growing. Toad looked at the ground again. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head very close to the ground and shouted, Now seeds, start growing. Frog came running up the path. What is all this noise? He asked. My seeds will not grow, said Toad. You are shouting too much, said Frog. These poor seeds are afraid to grow. My seeds are afraid to grow? Asked Toad. Of course, said Frog. Leave them alone for a few days. Let the sun shine on them. Let the rain fall on them. And soon your seeds will start to grow. That night, Toad looked out of his window. Drat, said Toad. My seeds have not started to grow. Must be afraid of the dark. Toad went out to his garden with some candles. I will read the seeds a story, said Toad. Then they will not be afraid. Toad read a long story to his seeds. All the next day, Toad sang songs to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad read poems to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad played music for his seeds. Toad looked at the ground. The seeds still did not start to grow. What shall I do? Cried Toad. These must be the most frightened seeds in the whole world. Then Toad felt very tired, and he fell asleep. Toad, wake up, said Frog. Look at your garden. Toad looked at his garden. Little green plants were coming up out of the ground. At last, shouted Toad, my seeds have stopped being afraid to grow. And now you will have a nice garden too, said Frog. Yes, said Toad. But you are right, Frog. It was very hard work. Cookies. What's your all's favorite cookie? Chocolate chip. My personal favorite. Toad baked some cookies. These cookies smell very good, said Toad. He ate one. And they taste even better, he said. Toad ran to Frog's house. Frog, Frog, cried Toad. Taste these cookies that I have made. Frog ate one of the cookies. These are the best cookies I have ever eaten, said Frog. Frog and Toad ate many cookies, one after another. What happens to you all when you eat a whole bunch of cookies all at once? You get super energetic, or you get belly aches? Ooh, I get belly aches. You know, Toad, said Frog, with his mouth full, I think we should stop eating. We will soon be sick. You are right, said Toad. Let us eat one last cookie, and then we will stop. Frog and Toad ate one last cookie. There were many cookies left in the bowl. Frog, said Toad, let us eat one very last cookie. Then we will stop. Frog and Toad ate one very last cookie. What do you all think will happen next page? I think they'll stop eating. We must stop eating, cried Toad as he ate another. Yes, said Frog, reaching for a cookie. We need willpower. What is willpower? Asked Toad. You all think willpower is someone named Will who's really strong? That willpower? Willpower is trying hard not to do something that you really want to do, said Frog. Oh, you mean trying not to eat all of these cookies? Asked Toad. Right, said Frog. My willpower is not eating all of the pizza when we get it from hometown. I love eating all of that. What's some of your all's willpower? Something that you all need to work on? Is it eating all of the cookies? Frog put the cookies in a box. There, he said. Now we will not eat any more cookies. But we could open the box, said Toad. That is true, said Frog. Frog tied some strings around the box. There, he said. Now, we will not eat any more cookies. But we can cut the string and open the box, said Toad. That is true, said Frog. Frog got a ladder. He put the box up on the high shelf. There, said Frog. Now we will not eat any more cookies. But what can they do? We can climb the ladder, take the box down from the shelf, cut the string and open the box and eat the cookies, said Toad. That is true, said Frog. Frog climbed the ladder and took the box down from the shelf. He cut the string and opened the box. Frog took the box outside and he shouted in a loud voice, "Hey, birds! Here are my cookies!" The birds came from everywhere. They picked up all the cookies in their beaks and flew away. Now we have no more cookies to eat, said Toad sadly. Not even one. Yes, said Frog, but we have lots and lots of willpower. You may keep it all, Frog, said Toad. I'm going home now to bake a cake. Silly frogs and toads. Dragons and giants. Oh my. Frog and Toad were reading a book together. The people in this book are brave, said Toad. They fight dragons and giants, and they are never afraid. I wonder if we are brave, said Frog. Frog and Toad looked into a mirror. We look brave, said Frog. Yes. But are we? Asked Toad. Frog and Toad went outside. We can try to climb this mountain, said Frog. That should tell us if we are brave. Frog went leaping over rocks, and Toad came puffing up behind him. They came to a dark cave. A big snake came out of the cave. Hello, lunch, said the snake when he saw Frog and Toad. Oh no! Opened his mouth wide. Frog and Toad jumped away. Toad was shaking. I'm not afraid, he cried. They climbed higher, and they heard a loud noise. Many large stones were rolling down the mountain. It's an avalanche! Frog and Toad jumped away. Oop. Frog was trembling. I'm not afraid, he shouted. Ooh, that's a great word. Trembling. What does that mean? Is it kind of shaking, or do they think they're nice and solid? So when something's trembling, it's usually afraid. They came to the top of the mountain. The shadow of a hawk fell over them. Frog and Toad jumped under a rock. The hawk flew away. "We are not afraid!" screamed Frog and Toad at the same time. They ran down the mountain very fast. They ran past the place where they saw the avalanche. They ran past the place where they saw the snake. They ran all the way to Toad's house. "Frog, I am glad to have a brave friend like you," said Toad. He jumped into the bed and pulled the covers over his head. "I am happy to know a brave person like you, Toad," said Frog. He jumped into the closet and shut the door. Toad stayed in bed. Frog stayed in the closet. They stayed there for a long time, just feeling very brave together. The dream. Toad was asleep, and he was having a dream. He was on a stage. He was wearing a costume. Toad looked out into the dark. Frog was sitting in the theater. A strange voice from far away said, "Presenting the greatest Toad in all the world! Yay!" Toad took a deep bow. Frog looked smaller as he shouted, "Hooray for Toad! Toad will now play the piano very well," said the strange. "Do you all play any instruments? Do you all play guitars? Maybe banjo? Maybe drums? Maybe the trombone and the flute?" "Frog," cried Toad, "can you play the piano like this?" "No," said Frog. It seemed to Toad Frog looked even smaller. "Toad will now walk on a high wire, and he will not even fall down," said the voice. Toad walked on the high wire. "Frog," cried Toad, "can you do tricks like this?" "No," peeped Frog, who looked very, very small. "Toad will now dance, and he will be wonderful," said the voice. "The robot is my favorite dance. What's yours?" "Frog, can you be as wonderful as this?" said Toad, as he danced all over the stage. There was no answer. Toad looked out into the theater. Frog was so small that he could not be seen or heard. "Frog," said Toad, "where are you?" There was still no answer. "Frog, what have I done?" cried Toad. Then the voice said, "The greatest Toad will now—" "Shut up!" screamed Toad. "Frog, Frog, where have you gone?" Toad was spinning in the dark. "No! Come back, Frog!" he shouted. "I will be lonely." "I'm right here," said Frog. Frog was standing near Toad's bed. "Wake up, Toad," he said. "Frog, is that really you?" said Toad. "Of course it's me," said Frog. "And are you your own right size?" asked Toad. "Yes, I think so," said Frog. Toad looked at the sunshine coming through the window. "Frog," he said, "I am so glad that you came over." "I always do," said Frog. Then Frog and Toad ate a big breakfast, and after that they spent a fine, long day together. Thank you all so much for reading this with me. I hope you all are enjoying the tales of Frog and Toad. Remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to animals, be kind to others. Keep on reading, keep on being amazing. Bye, everyone.